Hey, how's it going, fight fans? Welcome to mindforcombat. If it's the first time you checked out my channel or any of my content, why don't you consider supporting me to grow my fight platform by hitting the subscribe button and getting involved in the comment section below. So guys, this is a video that I've been really looking forward to make. And it's not to sit here and gloat. Well, maybe a little bit, but that's you know, you can't help it. Basically, as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of One Championship. And it's not just One Championship I'm a fan of. I'm a fan of every mixed martial arts platform that gives mixed martial artists the opportunity to make money and leverage their name into wealth for them and their family. Because these guys put themselves on the line, risk their health and their body every single day in the gym and in the cage for us to watch. Obviously, we make the sport as fans, and they make the sport viewable for us as fans to watch. So, in that there's strength. That's one thing that we've got to understand, is that in being fans of the fight, fans of the sport, we carry the power. We make the decisions on what happens, and that's by our viewership. By watching the fights that are put out there, by giving opportunities to these fighters that are fighting on other promotions to watch them. Maybe they've built their entire name or reputation in another promotion. For example, Michael Chandler, he's never fought in the UFC. He's fought solely in Bellator. Well, actually, interestingly, he fought in Strikeforce. That's a bit of trivia, but these guys that have built their names completely out of the UFC, do they deserve our attention just as much as fighters who fight in the UFC? Of course they do. These are talented fighters. Blood, sweat, tears, risk their life, have life-altering injuries so that we can watch it. Obviously, they do it for themselves as well, but they do it for us as well. And recently, I made a video talking about how much I love One Championship and why everyone should be involved in watching One Championship just as much as I watch One Championship. And one of my reasons for that was obviously because A, it highlights Muay Thai, it gives Muay Thai an avenue. Guys like Jonathan Haggerty, he's a great kid. The kid grew up with me, he's much younger than me, but gives kids like these an opportunity to be able to go out there and win world championships and make money in sports like Muay Thai, which maybe those opportunities didn't exist. Gives boxers, smaller weight boxers, guys like Winsaks or Wangek, I'm getting tongue tied there, opportunities to main event big shows and fight in front of their hometowns, make money there. You know, flyweight fighters have never been given the respect that they deserve in boxing or MMA. So One Championship has been doing that. It's been providing constant quality products. It's provided another avenue. There's great fighters. There's guys like Ongla Sang. There's Angela Lee. There's Christian Lee now who knocked out Shinya Aoki. These are great fighters, and now they've got a platform in One Championship to do it. And recently, it's been quite interesting for One Championship, because they've had a couple of major signings, and a lot of people who maybe wouldn't otherwise have been watching One Championship have started tuning in. So let's talk about some of the key signings. So firstly, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, the only of the three big signings from the UFC to One Championship that's been successful. Demetrius Johnson, he went obviously the first round of the flyweight Grand Prix. He won, and he had a real tough time actually. Even though he won, got stoppage, and he looked good, he had tough moments against a guy that a lot of people would have thought he's going to smush. A lot of people would have thought Demetrius Johnson's just going to go in there, look spectacular, get the W and move on. But actually he had to fight for it. That's interesting. Come on, that is interesting. Demetrius Johnson, who's got all these UFC records, has a tough fight with this unheralded kid fighting in One Championship. Then you got Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez, the former two-time Bellator world champion, the guy who fought in Bulldog, who's beaten guys like everyone from Shinya Aoki to Gilbert Melendez, Anthony Pettis, Rafael Dos Anjos. Put the first loss on Justin Gaethje's record just 1 year ago. So for everyone who's saying he's washed up, just 1 year ago he was knocking out Justin Gaethje. Just one fight removed prior to him signing with One Championship and losing to Timothy Nastasiukin. He was fighting Dustin Poirier in a main event, and he had a competitive fight up until he lost. He had a competitive fight with a guy who's now the current interim champion, who looked absolutely incredible in there, and with against Max Holloway, and then he goes and gets knocked out by Timothy Nastasiukin in the first round. He had a much easier time with him than Dustin Poirier did. And what's interesting is Eddie Alvarez, by any measurement going into that fight in the UFC, if he was still signed in the UFC fanboys, the UFC shills wouldn't be saying that. They would be saying, oh yeah, he'll definitely beat this guy, he'll definitely beat that guy, he's better than these guys still because he's in the UFC. The same guys that would disregard him now because he's not in the UFC, well, he was ranked in the top 5 or 10 of the UFC after the loss to Dustin Poirier. He goes and fights Timothy Nasty Yukin, who's 12-4, coming off a loss in one championship to fight Eddie Alvarez. He's coming off a loss to a guy who with a 5-1 record, a relative novice, and fights Eddie Alvarez and knocks out Eddie Alvarez in the first round. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? That tells you that maybe all the best fighters ain't in the UFC. And that's what I've said all along. And then you got Sage Northcutt, young 23-year-old kid on a 3-fight win streak in the UFC. He's got superstar potential, so he's been marketed very heavily. Super Sage Northcutt, of course. And I like Sage Northcutt, he's a great kid. But he's in there with guys like Cosmo Alexander. And for those of you who don't know about Cosmo Alexander is 69-19 as a professional kickboxer. I think he's got a few draws, a few no contests in there. So he's had over 80 professional kickboxing fights. He's 2-0 as a professional boxer. And coming into the fight with Sage Northcutt, he was 7-1 in mixed martial arts. Sage Northcutt does his best work on the feet. That was always going to be a tricky fight. And then he knocks out Sage Northcutt. That means UFC goes 1-2 against one championship. What does that tell you? Going back to my original point, that maybe all the best fighters ain't in the UFC. Now, the point of this video isn't for me to sit here and gloat and boast about how great I am, how I can figure this out. Look, I'm a fight fan. Mixed martial arts, I don't care. UFC, one championship, Bellator, I think we can all agree the vast majority of the best fighters in the world are in the UFC. Cool, no problem. But that doesn't mean that everything outside the UFC is crap or nonsense or trash. It doesn't mean everything outside the UFC doesn't deserve our time. The key point here is that as fight fans, we have the ability to impact what happens in the landscape of mixed martial arts that we enjoy. Me making these videos that maybe get watched maybe 100 times and getting the message out there, that's me doing my little bit for the sport that I love. We love this sport. We should be spreading the message. Hey guys, there's fights on, etc., etc. We want to grow the sport so that the fighters can make more money, leverage their abilities, and that we as fans have more product to watch, a high quality product to watch all around, not just in the UFC. So our fandom is not held leverage. That's when you start seeing stuff like $100 fight cards, like you do in boxing. We don't want $100 fight cards. I mean, I live in London, so I don't have to worry about that. But I care about the fight fans in America, because the fight fans in America are very pivotal to the sport. And I want you guys to have good products. Well, it's not just about me. So guys, remember this. Remember this and consider watching other fighting promotions outside of the UFC and giving them the opportunity to shine. Giving the fighters the opportunity to shine, giving them spotlight. And it ain't going to cost you nothing, but it might. But if you're a fight fan, you owe it to the sport to be giving every promotion the opportunity. Look, you might watch it, you might think, oh, but that show's just way too cheesy, it's not for me, I'm just not interested. That's fine, don't watch it. But at least give it the chance, guys. Anyways, that's just my thoughts. This was kind of just like a little run. Just wanted to do a little thought piece, especially with the world of mixed martial arts being quiet and not too many fights coming up for me breakdown. So I just thought I'd share some thoughts with you guys. Comment below, let me know what you think. Let me know what you thought about the video, if you think I made some interesting points, or if you're not interested at all in any of this, and that's fine too, no problem. I have no issue with any of this. Thank you for watching, guys. Mindful Combat. Thank you.